Can we start with a hug?
Sure.
Okay, let's do a hug.
All right, there we go.
Right,
That's right,
okay.
a proper hug.
There you go.
Every interview should start off that way. Have you guys noticed how smart his shoes are, by the way? Sorry, we've just thrown off the...
You gotta have good shoes.
I figure this is a perfect time to learn a little more about you, one of our favorite characters in the paddock. Want to learn about your history, where you grew up, how you got into racing and all those things. But I figure it's a great pivot starting at Detroit, Chevrolet's hometown, Renaissance setter, General Motors, huge edifice there. You guys love winning each other's races. Last year, the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach and whatnot, Cadillac, Victory Lane. You go to their race, you love to take theirs. Great to see the victory here, getting into the win column this year, but tell us about the side of competition, because we know you as a fun and smiling and engaging guy, but there is a raging competitor inside of you and everyone in IMSA.
Yeah, so there is a fact of life is you're never really going to win your home Grand Prix. So that's just life. But no, that was delightful. Our boys and girls have worked really hard. So between HRC, MSR, to see that rewarded gives everyone a, puffs the chest out, gives everyone an extra bit of stride on the old step there. So the key thing here is a team. So to watch us all work together, to do that was lovely. And yeah, there was some things in the background I noticed that, there you go. So,
you guys love
I'm sure they noticed the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
That's what I'm saying. You love taking each other's off of each other. That part's so much fun. But where that victory in Detroit, though, I think was so unique, yourselves with your partner team in Meyershank Racing, it wasn't just a victory for you with the Acura ARX-06 GTP, this hybrid race car. It was the first with that number 93 model engineered, the performance side overseen by your home team in California, that being HRC, Honda Racing Corporation US. We don't see a lot of that where a manufacturer has a partner team but says on one of those cars, we actually want to look after the engineering and performance side. That's the car that went to Victory Lane.
Yeah, that's again, Honda goes racing to develop its people, this technology, and it's not BS, because we need to. It's why I do it, it's why my colleagues do it. You want to develop your people and your tech. And that's our next step. Let's try racing the car. It is not easy. I am 23 years old, I just look like I'm almost 58. So, and all that's happened in the last 6 months. So, it's really hard. And the level of competition here, I mean, you have the utmost respect for all our competitors. It's a world-class stage. So you're trying to claw yourself up onto that world-class stage. And credit to MSR, credit to HRC, we sort of achieved that. So, but it's our next step in just challenging ourselves. You do this to make your life difficult. I don't think there's another reason. So you do this to really challenge yourself. So running the car is that next step. Also, it brings it closer to the factory. It gives people opportunities. Stefano, George, people who have worked really hard in our company, Wayne, it gives them more opportunities, ways to grow. So, and me, honestly speaking, I'm learning a ton. So you want to go to work, you want to learn something. So have a new challenge. You don't want to do the same stuff.
I want to come back to that a little bit later, but let's start with you. Since you came on in 2020 as the 7th president, we call it HRC US today, previous name HPD, Honda Performance Development, came from a very interesting background. I want to learn about you. We assume you're probably from British Isles of some sort, but tell us about when you were born, where you were born, and tell us a bit about your parents.
Okay, so I'm actually an American citizen, which I'm extremely proud to be. But I was originally British. I got the most amazing mum and dad who love me, taking care of me. I love them. So I had an upbringing, but we travelled a lot when I was a kid. We lived in Holland, we lived in Tonga in the South Pacific. My dad is a marine engineer. So we lived in Greece. So we sort of I had a pretty wild upbringing and a lovely home. So I was really fortunate there. But I got to see the world. So
That had to spark a curiosity. If you're constantly being embedded in new environments,
Yeah.
new people, new tongues, cultures,
Yeah.
you either open yourself up completely to that and take it in, or shut down, and you clearly decided to embrace everything.
yeah, and thanks to my mum and dad sort of stuff. So that was pretty exciting. So we sort of roamed around the world, lived in different places. Like I say, we lived in Tonga. There was myself and a New Zealand guy, Roger, in the Tonga High School with 200 Tongans. So, but it was brilliant. It was absolutely superb. Sort of culture, you know. So I always wanted to be an engineer. My dad's a marine engineer. I liked racing. And my first exposure to that, my mum worked in a Ford dealership in Chester. And they used to park for me the World Rally cars there. And this was in the days of Group B.
Oh my goodness.
So I could go with my mum to work and look at these cars, 205 T16s,
RS200, I mean,
RS200. So I got to see that and thought, that is so cool. So that makes impressions. So I sort of thought, ooh, that's pretty cool. So that was my spark. And I followed racing and I wanted to be an engineer.
what interested you in the engineering side?
I just liked engineering, and my dad was an engineer. So I used to go with my dad and look at the ships and stuff, which are these huge cathedral engines. So sort of 60,000 horsepower engines, like 10 cylinders. In the summers when I was at university, I used to go work with my dad. And he used to put me inside cylinders. So these things are 2 meter stroke. So
Size of a building.
yeah, sort of 6 foot stroke, 4 foot bore. But you get a ladder and go down, and he'd have me measuring the cylinder bore. So you get in. So I could actually climb in and look at the crankcase and stuff. In fact, he shoved me in. My dad was quite, you know, you got to learn.
Yeah.
I get sent in boilers and all sorts of things. So I liked racing. But weirdly, when I went to school, I had this fixation that I wanted to do a PhD. I still don't really know why. I just fancied the research side. And I probably thought I wanted to go into academic stuff. So actually my original career, I went to university. I was okay at school. I did quite well at school till I discovered Wine, Women and Song. And
It sounds like a Led Zeppelin song.
yeah, and I went slightly off the rails, as you do. My parents lived abroad. I also went to like a boarding school. So it's great till you decide you want your freedom, and then I used to escape. And anyway, as you do at school. But then I actually got to university and thought, ooh, all right, this is serious now.
There's an independence there and a work ethic that either gets summoned or not, because it's one thing when you have your parents nearby, maybe live with them, that pressure is being applied to you to do a thing. When you're effectively floating in the world at university with wine, women, and everything else as a possible distraction, there's 2 routes you could go.
Yeah, luckily I got that out of my system at school. So when I went to university, I was super focused. Like I'd done drinking, all that sort of stuff, and thought, well, let's just focus now. Just normal life, you know, you're a kid, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I got to university, loved engineering, but I thought I'd quite like to do research. So I wanted to do a PhD, and I thought I wanted to stay in the university environment and do research, lecturing, that sort of stuff. So I started off that way. So went to school, got my first degree, went to do a PhD, did my PhD, and then actually went to work in University College London as a research fellow, and built a project was an optically accessed engine. So with quartz and everything and high-powered lasers, so you could look at the fuel sprays and combustion and stuff. So super novel. Actually, it was funded by Ford in Dearborn, and it was the first generation of direct injection engines. But we made an optical one so that you could validate the simulation and stuff. Anyway, so I liked all that. But then when I was doing some lecturing, do the research, it sort of dawned on me, this is a bit slow. like it's a research pace. And I thought, ooh, I want to get on with it. So I sort of pushed, and I ended up doing all my own machining. They taught me how to machine and making it so I could I would do my normal work during the day, and then in the evening I'd do the machining of the parts and things, which that was great. They looked after me, encouraged me. But it ended up the pace wasn't quite high enough. So I thought, all right, well, I love doing this engineering, it's super interesting, but it's not, the deadlines are longer term, all that sort of stuff. So then I thought, oh, well, maybe racing was still burning a bit inside. I used to go watch racing, all that sort of stuff, take my own car apart, all those sort of things. So I thought, okay, let's go racing. So Control-Alt-Delete, stop the academic thing, went for an interview at Cosworth. And
how'd you find that? How'd you come across that? Was it in an Autosport, or in the back of an Autosport or something like that?
Exactly that. Autosport advertised. I started to cold apply, but you need to apply for a job. And so I actually got an interview at Cosworth, which were recruiting. And
what timeline would this be, Davey?
So this is 93, 94. So I started off Cosworth when Mansell, the core part of Mansell racing for Newman Haas.
Yeah.
With that'd be the XB then.
Yep. 93, 94.
Yeah, exactly. So then saw this advert and thought, okay, let's start again. They didn't have a PhD there. So I was like this, they were like poking me. But Steve Miller, who ran the car program, I turned up very smart with very shiny shoes. And he was very impressed with my shoes. So I think that helped. And then...
Has that led to your ongoing fascination with smart shoes?
It's a tip. If you're going for a job, make sure they got me. I think it got me the job. But there's another thing that got me the job, which was very, very funny. I built this optically single cylinder with quartz liner. It's what they call a Bowditch piston, which came out of GM research. Very long piston with a mirror that you can see into the combustion chamber. But very hard to do, unlubricated, all that sort of stuff. So I built all this thing and made it, and it was very, very novel. It's cutting edge research. And I very carefully, this is when word processing was in its infancy. I am old. So this is...
Internet's barely alive right now.
So I'd put together this beautiful document with these pictures of this thing and sent it off to them. So I turned up and Steve Miller's like, oh, what have you done? And I said, well, I've done this optical engine. I sent you this thing. And he produced this document that was all black because it hadn't printed properly. So they couldn't see anything of what I'd done. I thought, oh no. I thought, I wonder how I got the interview. Anyway, I'd taken a document with me that showed what I'd done. And Steve went, oh, Christ, that's really interesting. He said, that's really cool. I thought, well, I'm glad I've showed you what I've done. So then the fact that I'd sort of made my own engine with the help of the research guys, and so they gave me a job at Cosworth. But there was one other very exciting bit of that interview. You were either the F1 bit or the kart bit. And I went to see Martin Walters ran the F1 bit. And that was in the days where people could be quite difficult at work. It's much better now. And he was renowned for being pretty straightforward, which is good. So, but he gave you this really hard test of some mechanical thing that are broken, and of course you didn't know that much then. And they just come up with a V12, and it was damaging the scavenging shafts. So he gave me, Bic Biro, 2 pens. And he said, yeah, this is the problem. Pretend that's a shaft and it's broken. What would you do? So he went through all this stuff. And I said, I can see instantly why it's broken. And he looked at me and went, really? I went, yeah, you've made it out of Bic Biros. And he looked at me. I thought, oh no, I've blown it.
The shiny shoes aren't going to get me.
And he just looked at me and he said, Sonny, I cracked the jokes. So, anyway, I got the job. So, that was one of those do or die moments.
So you're in this environment where well-established company, Cosworth been around forever, world champions of everything they'd ever done, you being younger and newer to that environment. I look at how you run HRC US, Davey, and how everything you mention is about the men and women there, the collective, the group. Was that a part of your working style there early at Cosworth, of being a uniter and builder of unions, or is that something you learned while there?
No, I've learned that. I was a young engineer, short trousers, did stuff, got shouted at, but in a good way. The style there was very empowering. I turned up, I really didn't know anything. And there was Rob White there was Steve Miller, there was John Bourne, Dave Gold, these legends. And they said, well, to start with, they said, well, here's the bottom end of the engine, look after that. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, do you know that I don't really know anything? They went, yeah, we know you don't know anything. You'll learn pretty quickly. Okay. And they empowered, they helped. The culture was lovely, like real mentorship, but like you were thrown in at the deep end. I mean, you worked your arse off. I mean, my wife, I've been together with Louise, my wife, for 38 years. She was working in one part of the UK, I was another, so I would travel up on my RD 350 LC Yamaha motorbike, two-stroke at the time. I would travel up, work during the week, but all I had to do was work. So I would start 8 o'clock in the morning and stay there till midnight or whatever it took, and we'd get some food and do it the next day, and then go over the weekend when I could go home at the weekend or not. But it was intoxicating. It was like, it was hard, but in this, you were empowered. So I learned empowerment there, but just because someone did it to me.
Yeah.
And team, it was just about people, you know, you go and just working as a small team. So I learned that there, and after Cosworth I went to Ilmore, which became Mercedes, and I started to get some responsibility then. And again, eventually I was there, I ran the development, performance development eventually on the V10, which were amazing things. But you start to look after people and you just learn what works, what doesn't work. You're not really taught. You just have examples, people to follow, people help you and nudge you, but no formal management training really, just all learning on the job. But the key is get the job done. So that's how it used to work. So then you sort of just figure out what works and what doesn't work. Like in life, you know, where you find out the best way you learn is when it goes wrong slightly, and you go, oh, best not do that again.
So you'd been in this IndyCar educational development cycle, moved to Ilmore, Formula One. I have to imagine that's just pressing the accelerator on development times and expectation and budget. What's it like moving into full-time Formula One focus for you in the engine side?
So yeah, I went to Ilmore. I started off actually in the special projects where we did the engines for Triumph motorbikes, which was brilliant. Then I did kart with the Mercedes kart engine for a year. And then they said, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go into F1? And I said, yes, please, because that was sort of a goal, although anybody who's thinking about planning a career, to let you in, I'm an engineer. Do something that's interesting, and then if you get opportunities, you get opportunities. So, but got into Formula One, it was the V10, it was magical. This thing was a 3-litre V10, we revved it to 19,750 RPM.
Working with McLaren, if I remember at the
time. Yeah,
it
was in the back of the McLaren. It was as small as it could be, as fragile as it could be, as light as it could be. It was a 3-litre NA engine. In the end, we made 950 horsepower out of a 3-litre NA engine. It was unbelievable. We did qualifying engines that lasted for 50 miles. It was nuts. We developed stuff during the week, and it'd be racing at the weekend. It was, that was when durability started to come into it. I remember coming up with something that gave us 5 or 6 horsepower. We had a 2-week break before Silverstone.
What was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was a 11th injector, so it was a V10. We had injectors for each cylinder, and I wanted to use, again, a bit of your PhD. We wanted to understand how well we could mix the fuel and cool the air, because when you put fuel in, it's for combustion, but if you can cool the air down, you increase the charge. So we said, why don't we put injector in the air horn? And because if the fuel touches the carbon or the steel, it cools the carbon or the steel, it doesn't cool the air. So we try and spray in the air horn and just hit the air, not the carbon. So we came up with a special injector in the air horn as a science experiment. Went to the dyno, did the test, and thought, wow, not only did it cool the air very well, it was 5 or 6 horsepower. So I went to see Mario, who ran it on pole. I said, look, we just found 5 or 6 horsepower. He went, great, let's have it for Silverstone. I said, isn't that next weekend, Mario? He went, yeah. So I went, all right. And then it was 2 cars, so that helps. So then we went to see Paul and said, we've got to make these parts because we made some prototype parts. And then there was actually a test in Imola that weekend. So we made some extra parts. I was put on a plane. We were working with Stuttgart. We put it on the transient dyno. This is like the Friday. We'd done this at the start of the week. Went to the transient dyno on a plane on the Friday. We worked all night. Didn't have any sleep. Got a plane the next day down to Imola. Picked up at the airport. Driven down. We put them on the car in the morning. We gave it a whiz in the afternoon. And then they made the parts in parallel for the race cars, and then it raced the following that weekend. And
all this for 5 or 6 horsepower.
Yeah, but that was critical.
But that was a huge thing.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks we tested it, so did it on the dyno, made the parts, just got on with it. So, and then got back and had some sleep. So I don't. In the 2-week period, there must have been half of those days where there was no sleep, really. It was brilliant. It was just seat of your pants, make the stuff, test it, get it done. We had to calibrate the thing as well. That's why we took it to the transient dyno. And then, of course, that was in a world of secrecy. This was in the air horn. And we had a photographer come into the garage. And when you switch the ECU on, it cycled the injector. So he was looking at the air horn, and this fuel came out the injector and got his camera. So, of course, it was secret. So one of our mechanics went to him. This was the days of film. I said, can I look at your camera? He went, yeah. He opened the back, took his film out, did this and said, here's your film. And gave me his camera back.
Oh my gosh. Oh, there would have been a fight. Oh boy.
He was a big lad, no fight.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So
we're protecting information.
Yeah,
so Davey, Ferrari as well is on your CV.
Yes.
Tell me about that from a culture standpoint, going from UK-based motor racing programs to a very proud Italian one. There's great history there. John Barnard among the many big brains that had gone there and benefited Ferrari's Formula One program, but what was that like for you?
Yeah, so I was in Mercedes 7 years, 5 years on the F1 program, and then at a certain point it was a bit of a time for change. And when I first went to Ilmore, it was Ilmore Mercedes, so it was Paul, Mario. Unfortunately, Paul died.
Paul Morgan.
Yeah. And then it started to change a bit and it became a bit more corporate. And I've been very lucky for this sort of this startup thing. And so it was a bit of a time for a change. And actually I went to speak to Mario Ilian and said, Mario was awesome. Just the best engineer you'd ever meet, but it was his thing, him and Paul ran. I said, I'm thinking of changing, which is a weird conversation to have with your boss. And I said, where would you go? He said, Ferrari. I went, okay. I said, I'm going to have a look. And he said, well, you've done well here. Good luck. And I actually I got the contact for Ross Brawn and pinged Ross and said, listen, I'm doing this, I'm thinking of a change. And he put me in touch with Paolo Martinelli. And I went for interviews, but actually I was interviewed in Ross Brawn's kitchen in Oxfordshire. But he had a dog, and I think his dog I ended up doing half the interview with his dog sat in his knee. Jean made us, his wife made us some nibbles. I like dogs.
As we know.
So I did half the interview with this dog on my knee, which is really good because it's emotional support. And I think I passed the dog test. And then I went out to Maranello one weekend privately and was interviewed by Paolo and Gilles Simon. But the culture was, again, it was a racing company. But the nice thing was, which is some of the inspiration for here, you did everything, you ran your own car. It was a race team. And I thought, okay, this is another step. You're doing the engine, but you're actually part of the team. And I was lucky enough to get the job. So, and I ended up head of engine development there. But that was a challenge because
Schumacher era, I mean.
But the engine side worked in Italian.
Yeah.
So when I eventually got the job, and then I said, what do I need to do before I start? And they said, learn Italian. Okay. And actually Mercedes put me on 6 months gardening leave. So I learned Italian very kindly in 6 months. But it was a bit of a shock because you sort of do all your language. I got up some private lessons, did my stuff, 6 months. You think, okay, I may be okay. I turned up, arrived in my first meeting on day one. I thought, oh no, I have not understood anything. I went home and we still had our boxes. I said to Louise, I said, do not unpack. And also talk about cultural change. We have toilets you can sit on now. There is a different type of toilet, like the French style toilet, where you don't sit, you squat. And it was that type of toilet. So I went there, I didn't speak the language, I didn't understand what was going on, and I even had to learn how to go to the toilet differently. So within 3 days...
With your frame, I can't even imagine.
Let's not go there. But I thought, oh my God, this is like different. But like after day 3, I wandered over to the chassis side and they had a toilet you could sit on. I was like, there is a God. Because, you know, sometimes you just want a quiet space and the bathroom could be a good quiet space because like it's a lot. So I actually found a place of sanctuary where I could sit there and just relax for 10 minutes.
Was it the multiple world championships, the legend of Enzo Ferrari, No, they had a really good toilet. That's why I stayed at Ferrari.
So after day 3, I thought, okay, we're on the up. And it was brilliant. And it's the best thing I've ever done because actually learning the language, you integrate, and then I could enjoy Italy. And it's a human place. It's amazing. So it was one of the best times of my life. And then it's Ferrari. I mean, it's the Italian national squad, so you're fighting for Italy as well as, you know, Ferrari, and the people were brilliant, and it was very human, and the team, and there was Rory Byrne there, and Gilles Simon, and these are the people you learn from.
Tell me about this move to Honda, which has been very wide-ranging for you, open wheel, sports cars, off-road, but nonetheless, this is a place where we've come to know you the most, where I think you've thrived and taken everything you've learned and packaged that into what you're doing.
Yeah, so the lovely thing was Cosworth Racing Company, Ilmor Mercedes Racing Company, Ferrari Racing Company. And then I've been at Ferrari 9 years. It's hard. I mean, when you're in that environment, you sort of check your soul in at the door. You go to work and it's just work. And you've got to try and balance your family and all that sort of stuff. So, but I loved it. But then one Saturday morning, I got this text, oh, there could be something in California. And when we went to Italy, we went as a family. My kids were 2 and 4, my wife, and the life experience was amazing. And then I got this text one Saturday morning, it could be an opportunity at Honda in California. I looked at my wife And we've been there 9 years, and she said, do we want to do it again? And we went, yeah, why not? Because life is for living. So, and then I came to see Honda, and it's a racing company. I thought, okay, A, we get this new life experience again, and my kids were at the right time for school, run up to university, Sam and Izzy. And also it was a racing company. So it just felt racing company. So came, and the lovely thing was it just Honda's very similar to Ferrari. The guy who made it was a racer. So Mr. Ferrari, Mr. Honda, they love racing. So I thought, okay, I could identify with all this racing culture, but the real interesting bit was Formula One's hard. It really is an aggressive environment. I turned up in Honda, and there was this very unusual thing, a real respect for the individual. It's cultural inside Honda, where there's just a respect for your colleague. I was like, whoa, that's weird. So, because
not a rival, but an actual partner.
Life's not so much like that, Marshall, sometimes, is it, unfortunately? So I sort of thought, this is a racing company, and then there's this real respect for individual, and then you got all their heritage of Honda. It's not the biggest company in the world, but it's one of the best racing companies in the world. If you look what they've achieved, it's astonishing for the size of the company, because inside they understand racing, and that shone through. So out we came to California, and California does not suck.
Yeah.
So just a life experience for my family, for me. It's a racing company, and the people were brilliant, and it just had this culture of racing. So.
And you also have this fun tradition you carry on, not all the time, but riding that Triumph to and from Cosworth when you're a younger man. You also enjoy riding a motorcycle to and from HRC when you're able as well.
Yeah, so of course I love bikes. One of my real passions is bikes, and bike racing is, we just had the Isle of Man TT. I mean, talk about heroes. I mean, that's next level. You watch them in the Indy 500 and you think, wow. And then you watch them at the Isle of Man TT and you think, okay, wow.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
a different
and that's
level.
Honda. That's how Honda started. So I identify with that. And I get to ride a Honda motorbike, which is best in the world. So I get to ride that to work as well. So, but yeah, came to Honda, racing company, brilliant culture. And the other thing I wanted, try different things. Open wheel, done lots of open wheel, love open wheel, pure competition, great. But then sports car racing, I'd not done it before. I've been to Le Mans. Louise and I jumped on the motorbike, went down to Spain, went up to Le Mans, the pilgrimage, but not done it. And then I got to do it. I got to get properly involved. I am hooked. It's the ultimate challenge. A 24-hour race. I think we're all masochists at heart, but that is the purest racing challenge in my mind. You basically have to do so you're doing 24 hours, 10 Grand Prix in a row, and you have to be perfect for half a season, 10 Grand Prix in one go. So just to get to the end as an engineer is this massive accomplishment, and then go head to head and race it out with the best in the world. And it's a sprint now. You know, it's ding dong at 3 o'clock in the morning. I love it. And the harder it is, the more fun it is. Fun's a weird word. Not exactly at the time. It's purgatory at the time. The nervous energy that you use in those 24 hours is nuts. But the whole thing about it is, and the way IMSA does it, you get 24 hours, you're fighting at the end. It's brilliant. So I'm hooked. It is, I just love it. And also the variety of it, whether it's a sprint. And if you look at IMSA, all the tracks we go to, there's not a dud. Every track that we go to is special. So I'm in love with it. I love it. It's hats off to IMSA, hats off to our competitors, hats off to you. Most importantly, hats off to the fans, because also the knowledge of the fans, they're all here, they're camped out, they know, they live it, they breathe it.
They thank you for bringing Chewbacca to the track.
Yeah, and especially now, the cars are so cool. They look cool, they sound cool. They've got really cool technology, and again, we're trying to bring the next gen on. It's interesting, so yeah, I'm hooked. So it's been a new lease of life, and so to find that this stage in your career and have that challenge it's been very, very special. I'm very, very grateful for that, really, to whoever invented sports car racing. Thank you. So
make sure you follow along with us on IMSA's official YouTube channel, and follow IMSA Racing on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X. We're going to be doing some pretty cool stuff with some pretty cool people with some pretty cool race cars.